Do you feel ignorant because you don't know numbers? You don't know which one go which way and they got all these marks and things on them? I know, honey, it's hard, but there is a solution. Fort Bend Tutoring. And now here go Mr. Whit. Explain math to us, Mr. Whit.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Witt with Fort Bend Tutoring, and today's tutorial is going to be over PEMDAS is wrong, the true order of operations part 2. That's right, we're back for more, and here we go. Alright, so if you've already checked out part 1 of our PEMDAS is wrong video, we appreciate your feedback, we appreciate you watching, and we appreciate the opportunity to keep this conversation going because so many people were taught the order of operations incorrectly, and we're ecstatic to hear from each and every one of you that were taught the order of operations correctly. That's right, you can be taught the order of operations correctly using PEMDAS or any other mnemonic. However, because of the inconsistency that goes on with people retaining the true order of operations, we discourage using it. That's right, just focus on mastering the order of operations as it is. Too many people are memorizing the mnemonics and not remembering the order of operations. Yeah, they're memorizing BODMAS and PEMDAS and all those things, but they're not remembering the order of operations, okay? So it's all about retention, teachers, okay? You ought to know that. So spend more time on the order of operations and the mastery of it than memorizing the mnemonics. When carrying out your order of operations, we want to move from left to right. Throughout the entire process. Number 1, you'll focus on your parentheses, and when we say parentheses, we are including all grouping symbols. That's right, parentheses, brackets, braces, absolute value, and the radical sign. Any symbol that can group numbers and operators. If both of those conditions are met, that's what we're calling a grouping symbol. Then next, we're looking at exponents. That's right, anytime you're dealing with a superscript, all right, and we are aware that a square root sign can be written in exponential form. However, the symbol itself groups numbers and operators, not the exponential form. So we're keeping those two things separate. Next, when it comes to multiplication and division, you do these operations from left to right. So if you see division come before multiplication, that means you divide first in that situation. If multiplication comes first, then you multiply first, all right? But these two operations, multiplication and division, will come after you tackle everything inside of your grouping symbols and you take care of your exponents. Finally, you'll take care of your addition and the subtraction, and do those things from left to right. Yeah. There you go, and that'll keep you safe. It'll keep you safe at night. Let's continue. All right. Here we've compiled a list of popular mnemonics that we've gotten mostly from you guys. Yeah, you've contacted us and you say, yeah, PEMDAS, never heard of it. Yeah, I was taught something else. So these are all the mnemonics that we've come across since interacting with the world, all right? So, of course, you have PEMDAS, which includes P for parentheses, E is for exponents, M is multiplication, D is division, A is addition, S is subtraction, but then you'll find things like PEMDAS. Yeah, PEMDAS. Yeah, with PEMDAS, they separated those roots from the exponents. In other words, they separated rational exponents from those that are integers, okay? So they have parentheses, exponents, roots, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, all right? That's one mnemonic that's also being used out there. Then you have things like PEMDAS. PEMDAS, you say? PEMDAS is parentheses, exponents, the unary negative, or the unary minus, as some people put it. Basically, just having a negative sign outside of a set of parentheses is what they're considering the unary negative to be. Then, of course, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. Then you have our lovely friend GEMDAS. GEMDAS is when you have G as the grouping symbol. So basically a substitution for the P for parentheses. They'll just go ahead and generalize and say G is any grouping symbol. Do those things first. B stands for brackets. They're replacing the grouping symbol or parentheses with brackets. So it's brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. And then BODMAS. BODMAS would be brackets, order. Order stands for doing things like exponents, all right? So O is for order in that case, okay? Then you have gems. GEM stands for grouping symbols, exponents, multiplication, because every division can be written as a multiplication problem, and then subtraction, because every addition could be written as a subtraction, I would imagine. All right, there you have it. So they just simplified the GEMs. And then this one is just DMOS. I guess you just forget all about the parentheses and stuff. But anyway, as you see, there you go. Different mnemonics that are used. Yeah, I think I hate them all. I hate them all. Right, because they're all a distraction. They're all a distraction from learning the order of operations as it is. Just learn the order of operations. Okay? That's it. You don't need any magic. And I understand the mnemonics do help some people. All right? But we're talking about teaching to the masses here. All right? So focus on the order of operations. All right. So what I provided in this second video for you guys, because I didn't have as many as I wanted in the first video, is more problems, all right, and more complicated problems. So way more brackets, way more braces, and so we'll focus on tougher problems in this video. All right, let's get to it. In problem number 1, we have the quantity of 7 times the quantity of 8 minus 4 plus 16 minus the quantity of 15 minus the quantity of 7 minus 8. And for this video, I'm going to use the order of operations that I presented on the first page. All right. So if you prefer a mnemonic, all right, you go right ahead and use that. That's fine, as long as you're using it correctly. And I do understand that in many of the problems that you'll see in today's tutorial, that you can actually work the innermost parentheses in this set of brackets as well as this set of brackets simultaneously and get the correct answer. But for consistency's sake, we're going to move from left to right, and we'll solve each problem one step at a time. We won't be doing anything simultaneously unless it's a fraction, aka a rational expression. All right, so that's the deal. Everybody on board? All right, great. Let's have some fun with the order of operations. You move from left to right. You start with your grouping symbols first. So in this case, I would start with this set of brackets, but then once I enter this set of brackets, I look for another grouping symbol, which takes me here. So if your teacher or you were taught that you start in the innermost set of parentheses, they're correct. That's exactly what's going on. But this is why you end up there, because you're still moving from left to right. We started with our set of grouping symbols here, in other words, these brackets, and then we started the order of operations over again, and we started looking for another set of grouping symbols, which takes us to this set of parentheses here. So that's how you end up getting into the innermost set of parentheses. Within the set of parentheses, we're going to subtract 8 minus 4. All right, so rewriting this, I'll have 7 times 8 minus 4 is 4, right? So then I'm going to bring everything else down. That's right, I'm doing everything one step at a time. Not in a rush here. My main concern is getting the correct answer. So what did we do in our first step? We started in our innermost set of parentheses, and we subtracted 8 minus 4, which gives us 4. All right, now inside of the brackets, this set of parentheses, there are no other operations within it. We just have the number 4, right? So then moving outside of that set of parentheses, anytime you have a number in front of a set of parentheses, that means there's multiplication going on. So we have multiplication and addition going on in our first set of brackets. So out of those two operations, you will multiply next. All right, so next in multiplying, we'll have 7 times 4, which is 28. And I'll bring down that plus 16 and then the rest of the problem. All right, so once again, we're just working inside of that first set of brackets, working out this problem one operation at a time. From here, I'm going to be adding 28 plus 16. Well, 28 plus 16 is going to give you a result of 44. So now I have 44 minus the quantity of 15 minus the quantity of 7 minus 8. Just like that. Now we're going to be moving to our next grouping symbol, all right, which is this second set of brackets that we had from the original problem. So inside of these brackets, we start the order of operations over again, and that takes us to the set of parentheses. And inside of this set of parentheses here, we have 7 minus 8. So we'll subtract. So bring down your 44 minus bracket 15 minus the difference of 7 and 8 is going to be -1. That's right. 7 minus 8 is -1. If you need a brush up on adding and subtracting with integers, go ahead and check this video out. It'll help you out with subtracting integers. So 7 minus 8 is negative 1 because our terms inside the parentheses is a positive 7 and a negative 8. When combining like terms, you always keep the sign of the largest digit. So because the 8 is larger than 7 and the 8 is negative, see, that minus sign in front of that 8 is the same as a negative sign. And therefore, this 8 will determine the sign of the result. So if the 8's negative in this case, the answer will be negative. And because our signs are different, you'll end up subtracting. So 8 minus 7 gives you 1, and in this case, negative 1. All right, so notice that I'm determining the sign of the result first by locating the sign of the biggest number. The sign on the 7 is positive, the sign on the 8 is negative. That minus sign is a negative sign. And you always keep the sign of the biggest number. So that meant that my result had to be negative. Then, because my signs are different within the parentheses here, I end up subtracting the values to end up with negative 1 as a result. Now we don't have any other operations left inside the parentheses. We just have that value of negative 1. And so we move outside of the parentheses, and once again, anytime you have something on the outside of a set of parentheses, that means you're going to multiply. And in this case, this negative, the unary minus, can be considered to be negative 1. And it's multiplying on this negative 1. So a negative times a negative is a what? Exactly. You knew that. Very good. A negative times a negative is a positive. Let's go ahead and show that on our next page here. All right, so carrying this step over, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I'm going to rewrite this as 44 minus the quantity of 15 plus 1. All right. Once again, I'm using our multiplication rules in order to combine these signs. So when signs are right next to one another, use your multiplication rules. So in this case, a negative times a negative gives me a positive as a result. So we now have 15 plus 1 inside the brackets. Well, that's just 16, right? So you have 44 minus 16, and this answer is 28. And done. This is the answer. That means I'm going to red box my answer. All right. So red boxing it, ladies and gentlemen, red boxing it. That's it. Let's go ahead and recap over this problem. All right, so we started out with our original problem here. We started within our first set of brackets, moving from left to right, and once you enter a grouping symbol, you immediately start the order of operations over again and look for another grouping symbol. In this case, we had parentheses. So within our parentheses, we have 8 minus 4. So go ahead and subtract. You end up with 4. Then, once we've exhausted every operation inside of those parentheses, we move outside of the parentheses. And outside of our parentheses, we have the number 7. Anytime you have a number or a negative or a positive sign on the outside of a set of parentheses, you're going to end up multiplying those two things together. All right? So in this case, I have the number 7. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 4, and that gave me 28. All right? Then from there, what we did was we added the 28 plus the 16 together, and we were able to drop our brackets because we had completed every operation within it. And we didn't have any operators on the outside of it, nor did we have any numbers outside of those brackets. All right, so that was just 44, and we moved on to our second set of brackets. So once we entered our second set of brackets, we immediately looked for another grouping symbol, which was our second set of parentheses here. That's 7 minus 8. We subtracted, ended up with negative 1, and then we noticed we had a negative sign on the outside of our parentheses here. A negative times a negative is always a positive. So here we were able to combine our signs to get a positive, and then 15 plus 1 gave us a result of 16. Technically, once you get that 16 here, you can multiply that unary minus times our quantity to end up with a negative 16. In other words, the result of 15 plus 1 is 16, and then this negative 1 times 16 gives us a negative 16 here. Either way, you'll end up with a situation where you're going to be subtracting 44 minus 16 to get a result of 28, and done. All right, on to problem number 2. That's right, number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Here we have it. In problem number 2, I have the quantity of negative 4 minus 2 times negative 1/2 divided by 1/4. All right, looks like fun, right? Let's go ahead and check it out. So we know that we're supposed to start with our grouping symbols first, right? In this case, we have brackets. And inside of these brackets, we do have parentheses, but there's really nothing to do inside these parentheses, right? In other words, these parentheses are just containing the value negative 1/2, all right? So that means that immediately outside of those set of parentheses, this negative 2 here is multiplying with that negative 1/2. So we need to multiply first. So negative 2 times negative 1/2 is going to be our first step in this problem. We'll go ahead and bring down our brackets and that negative 4 and find the result of negative 2 times negative 1/2. So first of all, let's focus on the sign, all right? The sign of your result should be your first priority. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So I know I have a plus sign right here, right? We're writing each step from left to right. We're doing the order of operations from left to right. We're staying consistent. Then 2 times 1/2, or taking half of 2, or dividing 2 by 2, will give you a result of 1. It gives you 1. Or you could simply say that this is 2 over 1 and multiply straight across, right? So 2 times 1 is 2, and 1 times 2 is 2, and simplifying 2 over 2 gives you 1. All right? You can't escape it. I know you tried. I could see it in your eyes. You were trying to get away from the fact that the result of that product was going to be 1, but it's 1. It's 1. You're going to have to just live with that. I'm sorry. All right. That's okay. Then just send me your address and I'll send flowers to your dying idea that it wasn't going to be 1, because it was 1, and it is 1. It's 1, okay? So now, what's your next step? We're still inside of our brackets. And we have unlike signs, don't we? All right. Well, when you're combining your numbers together, when you're combining integers together, you want to focus on the sign of the biggest number first, because that's going to tell you the sign of your result. Okay. So I know that the result of combining negative 4 and 1 will give me a negative result. I know that, so I'm going to write it down. Then, because I have unlike signs subtract. See, what I like to do is I like to incorporate a little geography in my math. All right. And I always say to myself, what country is LAN? What country is LAN? I know some of you said California, but that's wrong. It's not a country. It's in the US. There you go. Los Angeles is in the United States. Like signs add, unlike signs subtract. And I know that what you're saying right now, you're saying, Mr. Witt, thought you said you didn't like mnemonics. I don't. But it helps some people, doesn't it? So here we go. So we're going to go with negative 3. Bam. There you go. Negative 3 is the result. So you're going to have negative 3 divided by 1/4. I hear you, hypocrite, hypocrite, hypocrite. I don't care. So now you'll have negative 3 divided by 1/4. And what we'll do is we'll show that this negative 3 can be written as a ratio of fraction. And that's going to be divided by 1/4 like so. And anytime you're dividing fractions, what do you need to do? What's that? You don't even know how to spell that word. Reciprocal? There you go, yeah. Okay, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 1/4, all right? So I'll have negative 3 over 1 times 4 over 1. We're so close to the answer. We're so close. We'll then multiply straight across. And first of all, focus on the sign first, okay? A negative times a positive is a negative. Thank you. Then multiplying straight across, you'll have 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you'll end up with a negative 12. That's right, because 12 divided by 1 is just 12. All right, so I'm going to red box my answer now, because that's what I like to do. And there we have it. That's our answer. It's negative 12. Negative 12 is the result. Lovely. All right, so recapping what happened. We started out with number 2. We started inside of our brackets. We then looked for another grouping symbol, which we did find. We found parentheses, but inside of the set of parentheses, you just had one number. That number was negative 1/2. And anytime you have a number or a positive or negative sign on the outside of a set of parentheses, those things will multiply together. So we ended up multiplying negative 2 times negative 1/2. We started out with our signs. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 1/2, any way you do it, is going to give you 1 as a result. From there, we go ahead and combine our negative 4 and our positive 1. We end up with negative 3, because unlike sign subtract, you keep the sign of the largest number, which is negative, and you end up with negative 3. All right? So we did everything inside of our brackets, and we dropped those brackets. From there, we set that up as 2 fractions dividing. I placed my negative 3 over 1, showing it as a ratio, as a fraction, and we end up multiplying by the reciprocal of the second fraction always. Always. So multiplying straight across, we did focus on getting our sign first. The negative times the positive is a negative. Then 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. And then you simplify this. Always simplify your fractions, ladies and gentlemen. 12 divided by 1 is 12, and it gives you negative 12 as a result. Done. Problem number 2, in a can. That's right, a can. So let's move on. Moving on from here, we have negative 7 minus 3 times the quantity of negative 80 divided by the absolute value of 2 minus 10. Yeah, that's problem number 3. We're going to always start inside of the grouping symbols, so that takes us inside of the brackets. Once you enter a set of grouping symbols, you look for another pair of grouping symbols. So the order of operations starts over once you enter a set of grouping symbols. So we find absolute value. Yeah, the absolute value is a grouping symbol. It contains numbers and operators. So it's a grouping symbol, but it's also an operator. So what we'll do is we'll take care of finding the difference of 2 and 10, and then find the absolute value of that. Remember that the absolute value is the distance to 0. How far away from 0 is this value? That's what it's asking you. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this problem. So I'm going to bring down my negative 7 minus 3 times negative 80 divided by, inside of my absolute value I have 2 minus 10, right? The result of 2 minus 10 will be negative 8 within my absolute value signs. All right, there we have it, just like that. From here, we're going to find the absolute value of negative 8. The absolute value of negative 8 is simply the distance to 0. So how far away from 0 is negative 8? Well, it's 8 places away from it, right? So therefore the result is positive 8. The result of every absolute value will either be 0 or a positive number. In this case, it's positive 8. All right, there you go. Okay, so we took the absolute value of negative 8, in other words, how far away from 0 is negative 8? And it's 8 places away. It's 8 places away from 0. That's what it is. Then we're going to divide. So I'll bring down the negative 7, the negative 3, and within my brackets here, negative 80 divided by 8, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And 80 divided by 8 is 10, so I end up with negative 10 as a result inside of the brackets there. So just like parentheses, anytime you have a number or a positive or negative sign on the outside of a set of parentheses, you'll multiply those two things together. All right? So here, we'll be multiplying negative 3 times negative 10. So remember, a minus sign is a negative sign. So that minus sign, that negative belongs to the 3. So negative 3 times negative 10 is what? Very good, it's positive 30. So write down the negative 7 first. We're writing each step from left to right. And negative 3 times negative 10, that gives me positive 30. I hope you're having fun, because I am. I'm having plenty of fun with you right now. And negative 7 plus 30 is what? What's the sign of the answer? Let's start with that. The sign of your answer will always be the sign of the biggest number. So which digit, which number is bigger, the 7 or the 30? Well, 30 is bigger, right? And 30 is a positive number, so your answer will be positive. Now, you're going to subtract. You're subtracting because the signs are different. Unlike signs, subtract. So 30 minus 7 gives me 23, and that's the answer. Red box in it. Done and done. There you go. That's my answer for problem number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to problem number 4. Problem number 4 is next. So here we have problem number 4, and with problem number 4 we have a fraction, a rational expression. We have 5 minus the quantity of negative 2 cubed times 2 divided by 6 times the square root of 9 minus 9 times 2. Let's go ahead and work this out. We have an obvious barrier separating the numerator and the denominator, so in this problem I will be doing one step at a time in the numerator and in the denominator, okay? So my first priority in the numerator is to work inside of the first set of parentheses and tackle that exponent. The exponent 3 is only on the 2, not the negative. See, in order to include the negative, this exponent of 3 would have had to be on the outside of the set of parentheses, and it is not. It's within the parentheses, and it only applies to the number 2, not this negative 1 right here, not that negative sign. That means I'll have the following. I'll have 5 minus negative 8. How did I get negative 8? Because 2 to the third power means 2 times 2 times 2. And 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. And I simply brought this negative down. This negative sign inside the parentheses was not a part of my process of simplifying that exponent. It wasn't. I just brought it straight down. It had nothing to do with it at all, because the exponent only applied to the number 2 and not to the negative. All right? Then I'll say that this is times 2. All of this is going to be over, and in the denominator here, our only grouping symbol that we have is that radical sign, right? So we'll do that first. We'll take the square root of 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So in other words, our index here is 2. We're looking for a square root. We're looking for what number times itself will give us 9. And remember, when you're using a square root sign, you're looking for the principal root, aka the positive root. Okay? So the positive root of square root of 9 is going to be positive 3. Minus 9 times 2. All right, so now that we have this, our next step in the numerator is going to be to multiply. All right, so once again, we have that unary minus, which means a -1 times -8. All right, so a negative times a negative, once again, anytime you have two signs right next to one another, just combine the signs using your multiplication rules. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I'll be combining those signs. Mind you, I'm still moving left to right in the numerator and in the denominator. I have 5 plus 8 times 2, and the denominator we have multiplication, subtraction, and multiplication. So 6 times 3 is what I need to do next in the denominator, because multiplication comes before subtraction and we move from left to right. So 6 times 3 gives me 18. So I have 18 minus 9 times 2, and this is what we have thus far. Alright, so in the numerator we have addition and multiplication. So what goes next? Exactly, multiplication does. So in the numerator, I'll have 5 plus 16 divided by, and in the denominator, we have subtraction and multiplication goes before subtraction. So I'll have 18 minus 18. And we'll be adding in the numerator and subtracting in the denominator. So in the numerator, we know that 5 plus 16 gives us 21, right? And in the denominator, 18 minus 18 is 0, and then we're asked to simplify 21 divided by 0. You can't have 21 parts of 0. That makes no sense. How are you going to have 21 parts of 0? Exactly, you can't. So that means that this result here is undefined. Anytime you have 0 in the denominator of a fraction, the answer is undefined, ladies and gentlemen. Just doesn't make sense in math. So I'm going to red box this because it's the answer. All right, red boxing it. And there you have it. The answer for number 4 is undefined. There you go. On to number 5, ladies and gentlemen. All right, number 5 is on its way, and here it is. We have the quantity of -5 plus the square root of 4 times the opposite of 2 squared divided by the absolute value of -5 minus 1. So here we have the numerator. We look at our first grouping symbol, those set of parentheses there, and out of the addition and taking the square root goes first. Because remember, once you enter into a grouping symbol, the next thing you look for is another grouping symbol, and in this case, it's the radical sign. All right, so that means that I'll have -5 plus the square root of 4 is 2 times the opposite of 2 squared. All right, in the denominator, we'll find out the result of -5 minus 1. Like signs add, and you always keep the sign of the biggest number. So my result within the absolute value is -6. All right, so -5 minus 1 is -6, and I'll be taking the absolute value of that in my next step. Continuing on, in the numerator, we have the quantity of -5 plus 2. Once again, you're going to keep the sign of the biggest number. So out of -5 and +2, this result will be negative. And I need to subtract these values because I have different signs. Unlike signs subtract, like signs add. So 5 minus 2 gives me 3. Notice how I had that negative sign waiting on me. I always like to know what sign my answer is first. So I attack the signs first, then I deal with the numbers. This is going to be multiplying on the opposite of 2 squared. Then in the denominator, I need to know the absolute value of -6. How many places away from 0 is -6? Exactly, it's 6 places away. So you end up with 6. All right, next, we have inside the parentheses our grouping symbol in the numerator. We have the opposite of 2 squared. So the exponent is only being applied to the 2. Not the negative. In order for it to include the negative, ladies and gentlemen, that exponent of 2 would need to be on the outside of the set of parentheses, but it's not. So it only applies to the 2. So I'm going to be bringing down this negative sign inside of the parentheses here, and 2 squared happens to be 4 to give me a result of -4 within the parentheses. That's still going to be over 6. From here, or here, if you prefer. I have negative 3 times negative 4. That's positive 12. So next we're looking at 12 divided by 6, which is 2. Remember, a fraction is a division problem, and 12 divided by 6 is 2. Or you can look at it as simplifying the fraction by 6, which you'll end up with 2 over 1, which is still 2. Alright, so you'll get 2 either way. Red boxing it. Done and done for problem number 5. Alright? Not bad. Not bad. You guys are getting better. I feel it. Problem number 6. Here it is right here. Yeah, I'm not repeating all that. It's way too much. But let's just tackle it. Alright? Let's just get it done. How about that? So, in the numerator, what's the first thing I need to do? We do have grouping symbols, but it's just a negative 1 inside of that. So that means that it's just a multiplication problem at that point. So, exponents. That's going to reign supreme. And this is the opposite of 3 squared. Once again, in order to include this negative sign for that exponent, this quantity would have to be within parentheses, and it is not. Only the 3 is being squared, not the negative. That means when I rewrite this numerator, it'll be 8 times 4 minus 9 times 5 minus 2 times negative 1. And I hear you screaming, but I thought negative 3 squared was positive 9, Mr. Witt. No, this is the opposite of 3 squared. It's not the quantity of negative 3 squared. It would have to look like this. It would have to have the quantity of negative 3 squared. This equals to negative 3 times negative 3, which gives you positive 9. Alright? That's what that does. But this is the opposite of 3 squared, which means negative 1 times 3 times 3. This result is negative 9. Okay? So those are the differences between those two. If we had the negative included inside of a set of parentheses and we squared it, that would mean we had negative 3 times negative 3. That's not the case here. So keep in mind that when you see an exponent, the exponent applies only to the value directly in front of it. Okay, so in this case, our exponent of 2 only applies to the 3. In order for it to include the negative, the author would have had to include parentheses. The quantity of negative 3 squared means negative 3 times negative 3, which equals to positive 9. But this is just the opposite of 3 squared, which means negative 1 times 3 times 3, which is negative 9. Alright, so those are the differences. Be aware of that. That happens often, alright? And then you guys will be fussing at me and stuff. Talking about, Mr. Witt, you don't know what you're doing, yelling at me on the doggone comments, and you're wrong. Alright, so check that out. So here we go. Next, we have in the numerator multiplication, and our multiplication will be in the form of 8 times 4. Yeah, we have 9 times 5, and we also have negative 2 times negative 1. But remember, you do the order of operations from left to right. So the 8 times 4 is going to be next in line. And 8 times 4 is 32. So I have 32 minus 9 times 5 minus 2 times negative 1. All of that is going to be over. Hey, in the denominator, what are we going to do next? Are we going to do the multiplication, the addition, or the exponent? Very good. We're going to do the exponent in the denominator. So we have negative 3 times 8, which is the result of 2 cubed, which means 2 times 2 times 2. And that's going to be plus 24. Just like that. Then what happens next? What happens next is we'll multiply in the numerator, right? And we have negative 9 times 5. So I'll have 32 minus 45, all right, because negative 9 times 5 is negative 45, so I can write it as minus 45 there. It's the same thing. Minus 2 times negative 1 all over. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24 plus 24. All right, you guys hanging in there with me? Good. Stick with me. In the numerator, what's my next step? We have subtraction, we add multiplication. So what goes next? Exactly, we need to multiply. So we'll be multiplying negative 2 times negative 1. Remember that minus sign is a negative sign. So negative 2 times negative 1 gives me a positive 2. So here we have 32 minus 45 plus 2. All of that is going to be over negative 24 plus 24. These are called additive inverses, aka opposites of one another. Anytime you combine additive inverses, the result is always 0. So we already know the answer to this is going to be undefined because we have 0 in the denominator, but we'll continue simplifying. So in the numerator, I have the 32 minus 45. That gives me a negative 13 plus 2 divided by 0 here. And continuing on, we have our negative 13 plus 2 divided by 0. That just gives us negative 11 divided by 0. And anytime you have 0 in the denominator, the answer is undefined. It is undefined. The only time you'll end up with 0 as a result is if you have 0 in the numerator over a different number. Okay, so if the answer was the reciprocal or flip of this answer, if it was 0 divided by negative 11, then the answer would be 0. But as long as 0 is in the denominator of our fraction, the answer is going to be undefined. Red boxing it. Red boxing it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the answer. Next problem. Problem number 7. We have negative 2 times the quantity of 3 minus the quantity of 1 minus 2 plus 2, all divided by the square root of 9 times negative 3 minus the quantity of negative 2. That was a lot to say. All right, so in the numerator, all right, we will definitely be starting with the innermost parentheses. So I have negative 2 bracket 3 minus, and the result of 1 minus 2 is negative 1. All right, and I'm going to leave that inside of a set of parentheses because we have something multiplying on the outside of it. So I'm showing that my result of 1 minus 2 is negative 1, which is still being multiplied by this unary negative, that unary minus there, that negative 1. So remember, anytime you have a number, a plus or a minus sign on the outside of a set of parentheses, that is a multiplication that's being implied there. So continue bringing down the rest of it. All of this is going to be over, and in the denominator, we'll need to take the square root first because that operation is before multiplication or subtraction. So the square root of 9, in other words, what number times itself will give you 9? It'll be 3. So I have 3 times negative 3 minus the opposite of 2. So we'll be combining our signs in the numerator within those brackets there. I'll bring down that negative 2. Inside the brackets, I'll have 3, and then a negative times a negative, combining these two signs together here, will give me a positive result. So that'll become 3 plus 1 plus 2 within the brackets. In the denominator, we have multiplication and subtraction going on. All right, and yes, this is also multiplication here if you're looking at those two signs right next to one another. But we still need to multiply the 3 times negative 3 first because it's the first values that we see reading from left to right that are multiplying. All right, so that's why that needs to go first. 3 times negative 3 gives me negative 9. All right, minus the negative 2 here. Continuing on, here we are. Still in the brackets in the numerator. I have negative 2. We'll add 3 plus 1 to get 4 plus 2. All of that is going to be over. We need to multiply these signs in the denominator. So I have negative 9 plus 2 because a negative times a negative is a positive. All right. Then continuing on, inside of the brackets, we'll add 4 plus 2 to get 6. So I have negative 2 times 6. All of this is going to be over a negative 7 in the denominator. All right, we got that because our largest value in the denominator is negative, and anytime you have unlike signs, you subtract. Because the 9 is the biggest digit and it's negative, our result will be negative, and we subtract the numbers because we have opposite signs. So we end up with negative 7 as a result. Continuing on, we have negative 2 times 6 in the numerator, which gives us negative 12 divided by negative 7. So what we'll do here is this. Since 12 and 7 don't have any common factors other than negative 1, we'll just simply divide a negative divided by a negative to get a positive result. And your positive result can be left as 12/7 as an improper fraction. Of course, depending on your teacher and class that you're in, you may be asked to convert this into a mixed number. All right, so yeah, I'll do that for you. You have 7 going into 12. 7 goes into 12 once. 1 times 7 is 7, and then you need to change the sign. And subtracting 12 minus 7 gives us 5, which is your remainder. Your remainder needs to go in the numerator of your mixed number, and then your divisor goes in the denominator, which is 7. So your answer as a mixed number is 1 5/7, and your answer as an improper fraction will be just 12/7. All right, so there you go. Red boxed it twice. On to problem number 8. All right, problem number 8. Now this is a long one, okay? All right, so I couldn't put it all in one line, so that's why I have it separated here, but this is all one problem. All right, I'm not reading all of that. It's just way too much. So we'll get started with our first set of brackets. How about that? Inside the first set of brackets, we'll start with our innermost parentheses, which is that 9 plus 2. That goes first. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3 times 11 plus 2 times 9 minus what we have left over, which is the quantity of 4 times the quantity of 5 plus 2 minus 3 times the quantity of 5 minus 2. All right. There you have it. Now, oh, you couldn't even see that. There you go. There you go. Better, better. In our next step, inside of our first set of brackets, we're going to multiply. All right, we have 3 times 11. That needs to go next. So I have the quantity of 33 plus 2 times 9 minus all the rest of this stuff. There you go. Just bring it on down. Bring it on down. Bring it on down. All right, and ladies and gentlemen, please be aware that I do know that you can do many of these steps simultaneously, but we're assuming, all right, that you need to strengthen your foundation first. So we're going to do things step by step and not get fancy. All right, so in our first set of brackets, we still have multiplication that needs to be done before the addition. So I have 33 plus 2 times 9 is 18. There it is. Minus, we have the quantity of 4 times the rest of this stuff here. There you go. Just taking our time. That's all. We want to get a correct answer, not a fast wrong one. So next in line, we have 33 plus 18. That gives me 51. Minus the quantity of 4 times the quantity of 5 plus 2. Minus 3 times 5 minus 2. Close brackets. All right, let's continue this on the next page. So since we tackled everything in that first set of brackets, we move on to our second set of brackets. And once you're inside the second set of brackets, you start the order of operations over again, and you look for another grouping symbol moving from left to right. And you end up with this set of parentheses right here. So we need to add 5 plus 2. So I'm going to be bringing down that 51, opening up those second set of brackets, and I have 4 times 7. All right, so adding 5 plus 2 gave me 7, and I'm bringing down the rest, just like that. Then I have 51 minus, inside of those brackets, we are going to multiply 4 times 7. That gives me 28. Minus 3 times the quantity of 5 minus 2. All right. Continuing on, we'll be looking at the 5 minus 2 in those parentheses there. So that gives me 51 minus the quantity of 28 minus 3 times 3. And then we'll be continuing on from here. All right, so now inside the brackets, we'll be multiplying negative 3 times 3 inside the brackets. So I have 51 minus the quantity of 28 minus 9, okay, just like that. And inside of those brackets, we'll subtract. We'll have 51 minus 19 now. And finally, subtracting 51 minus 19, what does that give us? Oh, I don't even know. I'm not going to even front. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to borrow. I'm going to have to carry this over here. I don't know what that is. 32. There you go. 32. It's 32. Thanks. Appreciate that. Red boxing it. If you don't know, work it out by hand. And there's our answer for problem number 8. Moving on to our next problem. All right, here we have problem number 9, ladies and gentlemen. Problem number 9. Just couldn't fit it all on one line, but in our first set of brackets, we need to do that innermost parentheses there, that 3 plus 5, moving from left to right. So in doing so, I'll have the quantity of 9 times 8. Yeah, just like that. Just like that. Let me see if I can squeeze the rest of this in here. This problem is way too long. Why is it so long? Because you asked for it. There you go. You wanted longer problems. Our next thing to do, we're moving from left to right, is to multiply the 9 times the 8. So 9 times 8 is 72 minus our negative 7 here, okay, plus all this stuff right here. There you go. Plus 9. And then we'll need to combine these signs together. Remember, that's the same thing as -1 times -7. So we'll need to attack these signs here. And so attacking these signs, we're using our multiplication rules. We'll have 72 plus 7. All right. And then the remainder of the problem again. Oh yeah, having so much fun writing out each individual step just for you. Yeah, that's right, for you. Inside of our first set of brackets, we'll be adding now. 72 plus 7, that's 79. Finally, the first bracket is done. Oh yes, on to bigger and brighter things. Yeah, like our next step. So inside of our second set of brackets, we'll need to take care of the subtraction in that set of parentheses there. We entered into the set of brackets looking for another grouping symbol, and we found it, those parentheses right there. So I'll be bringing down 79 plus the quantity of 4 times -9. So I got that because I know the sign of the biggest number will be the sign of the result, and because these signs are different in here, I have a +3 and a -12. I need to subtract those numbers. So 12 minus 3 gives me 9. All right, bring down the rest. You have +9, there you go, and on to continue this. All right, so in our brackets, we're now left with multiplication and addition, so you know we're going to be multiplying next. I bring down 79 plus, inside the brackets, 4 times -9 is -36 plus 9. All right, then bringing down 79 plus, I have -36 and a +9. The result will be negative, and we'll need to subtract 36 minus 9, which gives us 27. Okay, now we can combine these signs. Remember, anytime you have two signs right next to one another, multiply them together. So you'll have 79, and a positive times a negative is a -27 here. So this is like having +1 times -27. That gives you -27. All right, now we'll be subtracting 79 minus 27. Do I know what this is? I think I do know what this is. This is 52. There you go, 52. What do you think? I think that's the right answer. As a matter of fact, I know it's the right answer. I'm red boxing this. I don't even know why I'm playing around with you guys. I know that answer is 52. There you go. Done. 52. Moving on to our next problem. And we have this piece of work for you. Problem number 10. Thank you for sticking around this long. I appreciate it. I mean, you could have been doing anything right now. You know, anything. Yeah, I'm thinking about things but you know what you could be doing. You know what you could be doing, but you're here with me, so thanks. All right, so anyway, I'm going to start in this first set of parentheses here, the 3 plus 4. Yeah, I know that the braces and the brackets and the parentheses over here to the right are tantalizing. They're special, but we move from left to right. Yeah, we do. We move from left to right. So we're going to start with this, 3 plus 4. That's 7. So I have 5 times 7. And then all of this loveliness, because I cannot draw a brace to save my life. So send up prayers. Plenty of prayers for me in these braces that are terrible. Oh, no. No. That's going to have to do. That's going to have to do. I'm sorry. I'm not doing another one. No. I can't stand braces. I can never draw them. All right? Okay, I'm back. So we're going to multiply now. We have 5 times 7. That's 35. Thank you. There you go. And then, all right. No. See? Okay. Better. All right. Just bringing this stuff down. Just bringing it down. Yeah. Just bring it down. And then, all right, that's going to do. You already know about my braces, okay? You already know about my braces. So inside the braces, the order of operations starts over again, and you look for grouping symbols. You find brackets. Then the order of operations starts again. You look for grouping symbols. You find parentheses. So we're going to do the 9 plus 6. That's what comes next. So I have 35 minus, all right, that's supposed to be a brace. This is a bracket. Minus 15. There we go. Okay, that's gonna do. I'm not gonna get upset. I can't stand the braces. I'm not gonna get upset. All right. Inside of these braces, remember, we're gonna work in our innermost bracket at all times. So whether it be parentheses or anything else. So we have brackets to deal with, and the 5 minus the 15 gives you a result of -10 inside of the bracket. Okay, so keep that bracket for this because we want to show that this value is a negative. And yes, I do realize that noodle is supposed to be a brace. Okay, I just can't do it. You guys have given me so many ways to draw the brace. Y'all said just do a number 2 and then an S and all this other kind of stuff. None of that works. I can't do it. All right, so we all have our talents and we all have our things that are challenging to us. And I've accepted that I can't draw a brace. All right, it's okay. It's okay. I'm good at other things. All right, I'm good at other things. I'm happy with that. All right, so our next step is going to be combining these signs in between. All right, we're going to combine those. Okay, so this is where we are. And yes, I understand that I'm a math teacher that can't draw a brace. Okay? I know some math teachers that can't add. You may be one of them. Okay? Everybody has a flaw. So we have 35 minus the quantity of 8 minus our negative 10 here. All right? And we're going to combine these signs because anytime you have two signs right next to one another, you're going to multiply those signs together. And a negative times a negative is a positive. So I rewrite this as 35 minus, stupid brace, plus 10. There we go. All right. Okay, that brace wasn't all the way bad. All right. Then we'll be combining 8 and 10 together to get 35 minus 18. Lovely. And 35 minus 18 is 17. Red box it. Done and done, ladies and gentlemen. 17 is the answer. Let's move on to our next problem. In problem 11, we have this. Okay. It's a lot. And it has braces. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. It has braces. So starting inside the braces, we look for another grouping symbol, and we find this first set of brackets that we will enter, and within that, you have parentheses. So once again, if you were taught to start in the innermost parentheses, that is correct information. You can just start within the innermost parentheses. That first one, moving from left to right, do that first innermost parentheses, and you'll be good. All right, so we're starting out with that 8 minus 2 in there. So bringing down the rest, I have 3. Close enough, close enough. And then we'll have bracket 7 times 6 plus 4. Okay, minus bracket 2 times 8 minus 5. All right, plus 6. There we go. All right, that's supposed to be a brace. That's supposed to be a brace over here. This thing here, that thing there is supposed to be a brace. Okay, I'll fix it. All right, don't have to do. So next in line, ladies and gentlemen, inside that first bracket here, we'll be multiplying next, okay? So I'll be bringing down 3 times bracket. 7 times 6 is going to give us 42 plus 4. All right, minus, we have bracket. In other words, I'm just bringing down the rest of this stuff here. All right. Okay. All right. We're gonna do it. We're gonna keep that as a brace, and then what I do next inside the brackets is I add. So 42 plus 4 is gonna give me 46, right? So I have 46 minus. This is gonna be a bracket here. This is gonna be 2 times 8 minus 5 plus 6. Every step of the way, I'm dreading the brace. Every step of the way. This is a nightmare for me because I can't draw a brace. That's going to have to do. So then, oh, some of you are wondering, this stylus here, okay, you're saying, oh, maybe it's because he's using a stylus that he's having difficulty with a brace. No, even with a pencil or a pen, I would still have this number of problems because I can't draw a brace to save my life. I would be dead so many times over if someone said, I'm going to kill you unless you can draw a brace. I would just die. I would just die. Thank you. But I appreciate you caring. That it's important to me. And I'm sure you'll be thinking of methods for me to solve it. And they will not work for me because I suck at drawing braces. Thank you. We're done with that first set of brackets within the braces. So we move on to our second set of brackets. And within that we have parentheses. So that means I'll be multiplying 2 times 8. Once again, working within our innermost grouping symbol and working our way out. Okay. So I'll have 3. All right. Oh, really? No. Better. We'll keep that. We'll keep it. And then 2 times 8 is going to be 16 minus 5. I'm still having fun. It's just that I'm not having fun with the braces. No. We're keeping it. Keeping that one. I'm keeping that one. All right, so here we go. Yeah, we'll continue from here. And we're going to be sticking with the innermost parentheses and going with our 16 minus 5 now. And so bringing down our next step here. All right, we'll keep that. I have 2 times 11. Look at my perseverance, ladies and gentlemen, all right? Even though I know I suck at these braces, I'm going to keep going. Yeah, you can't stop me. Brace. You can't stop me, brace. You can slow me down, but you can't stop me. I'm going to keep that. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. It's going to be kept. All right? It's going to make the video. I'm inside of these brackets, and I am now going to multiply. So I have 3. You guys like finished like 2 hours ago because I'm taking all this time with the braces. 2 times 11 is 22 plus 6. All right. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping it. Okay. So then from there, we're going to be combining the 22 plus the 6. So I have 3. We're going to have 46 minus 28. All right. So what we did was we were able to combine that 22 and the 6 together to get 28, and we dropped those brackets, and now we'll be subtracting 46 minus 28. So subtracting 46 minus 28, we end up with 18. All right, that's gonna be my brace on the right side. I can't do any better. So it's gonna be 3 times 18. 3 times 18 is gonna be 54. There we go. Red boxing it. All right. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Next. All right. In problem number 12, ladies and gentlemen, we do have braces, so it's going to be fun for me, right? And we're going to start in our first set of brackets within those braces and then end up in those parentheses. So we'll have our 2 minus 3 be the first step that we do. So I have 4. This is going to be a brace, bracket 5, and then 2 minus 3 is just negative 1. Thank you. I'm just dying inside a little every time I have to do a brace. That's right. The braces will be the death of Mr. Witt. All right. You guys are going to be witnesses. Once we've combined the 2 minus 3 to get negative 1, we have multiplication inside of that first set of brackets. So we'll be multiplying next. And that's going to be a brace. This is negative 5 inside of our bracket, plus 2, minus 3, times the quantity of 2 times 2 plus 5 here. All right. Minus 9, close bracket, close brace. Close brace. No. Close brace. No, no, no. I'm going to try something. Hey, that was a little better. I did that 2 and that S trick that you guys taught me about. I guess that'll do it. I guess that's better. Better than the noodles that I've been doing. All right, I'll do the 2 and the S thing, guys. All right, so that being the case, I'm going to now combine the negative 5 and the 2 together. So, all right, I think the left side's not too bad, so I'll just use my regular method for the left side and use that 2 and S over there on the right side. So combining the negative 5 and the 2 will end up with negative 3 as a result. Minus 3 times the quantity of 2 times 2 plus 5, minus 9, close bracket. So my next step is going to be to tackle the 2 plus 5 in here. So we'll be bringing down the 4, brace, negative 3 minus 3, bracket, 2 times 2 plus 5 is still 7, minus 9, close bracket, and close brace. All right, and we'll go ahead and take this to the next page. All right, our next step is going to be within the brackets. We'll either have to multiply or subtract. And using our order of operations, we should know by now that you need to multiply next. You need to multiply. So go ahead and bring down your 4, your brace, all right, and that's going to have to do. I can't do any better. We have the negative 3 minus 3, bracket, 14 minus 9. Oh, yes. All right, that's what we have thus far. All right, go ahead and center it, center it. There we go. Within the brackets, we'll now subtract. We have 14 minus 9, so I'll be bringing down that 4. My lovely brace here. All right, that's pretty decent. We have the negative 3 minus 3, bracket. 14 minus 9 is 5. Thank you very much. And, no, not that noodle. Not that noodle. Nope, 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 nope. Here we go. Here we go. Nope, 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 nope. Yes, yes, we'll keep that one. And within our braces now, because the 5 is the difference of 14 and 9. Anything on the outside of that directly is multiplying. So we have subtraction within the brackets, but we also have multiplication. And what's multiplying is the negative 3 times the 5, and we'll be multiplying that next. So go ahead and bring down that 4. And yes, we'll keep that brace. We'll bring down the negative 3. Negative 3 times 5. That's going to give us negative 15. Yes, it is. And we went ahead and dropped our brackets because we found our product of negative 3 and 5, which is negative 15. From here, thank you, we're going to go ahead and combine the negative 3 and the negative 15. Oh, yes, you will. Bring down that 4 and carefully construct your brace. Very good, Mr. Witt. We're going to combine the negative 3 and the negative 15 to give us negative 18. All right. Close brace. And now, the final step. We're going to multiply 4 times negative 18. And I'm going to focus on my sign first. A positive times a negative is always a negative. So I'll be writing my negative sign, okay? And then finally, 4 times 18 is 72. There you have it. I'm going to red box this because this, ladies and gentlemen, is the answer. Red boxing it. And this has been part 2 of PEMDAS is wrong. The true order of operations, ladies and gentlemen. As always, please rate, comment, and subscribe. And if you're able, please donate because that helps us bring you more free math tutorials from me, Mr. Witt, and Fort Bend Tutoring. Peace.
We certainly hope you enjoyed today's presentation by Fort Bend Tutoring. Did you understand the program? Would you like to rate us or give us some feedback or subscribe to us? You could do all that on tutormemath.net. Leave a nice comment. Don't just leave something ignorant on there. If you didn't understand the lesson, ask the professor to explain it for you. Don't just get mad and write something ignorant on there.